This is your favourite subject, though. Only 3 sleeps until the people of the seat of Eden-Monaro cast their vote in this much-anticipated by-election, although the pre-polling rate is through the roof, apparently. Maybe they've decided already. Now, we did ask the Liberal candidate onto the program tonight, but her timetable was apparently full. But we have snagged the former Bega Mayor, Labor's candidate, Kristy McBain. Richo still wields a bit of power, you see, in these areas. Kristy, welcome to the program.
Good evening, gents. How are you?
We're very, very well. Do you fancy your chances?
Oh, look, Eden-Monaro is a marginal seat. It always has been. I'm going to be campaigning for everyone's first preference votes right up until 6 p.m. on Saturday.
Richo?
By the time this show airs, I think we'll all know that McBain has won easily. She'll win very strongly. I've got every confidence in that. She's very popular in her end. Without Barilaro running at the Queanbeyan end, the Labor vote will hold up there. So she has done very well.
Fingers crossed we have, Richo. But as I said, we will be campaigning right till the end. It's going to be a hard task. We know that there are a whole lot of people across Eden-Monaro who have been through a pretty tough time lately on the back of droughts, bushfires, and now COVID. And we've got a lot of businesses really struggling at the moment. A lot of industries that have been impacted. And my job is to amplify their voices and make sure that they're heard. They're not feeling like they're being heard at the moment.
All the promises you've been making, and I've noticed some of the promises in terms of roadworks in the past 24 hours, it is still the fact that it's hard to get much done from the seats of opposition, which is where you'll end up if you win Eden-Monaro.
Yeah, look, that's right. But I guess for me, I live in this region, I love this region, and I'll do whatever I can to put the people of this region first. As Mayor of the Bega Valley, I've worked with politicians on every side. I've worked with different levels of government to get things done for our community. The first round of drought funding, Bega Valley wasn't a drought-declared council, so I had Mike Kelly campaigning for us. I worked with Senator Jim Moll and asked him to campaign for us. I worked with the Deputy Premier John Barilaro and asked him to campaign for us, and I even contacted East Gippsland and had their mayor campaigning for us.
Well, you should be an independent, Kristy. You should be an independent.
No, this is what people in the regions want. They want a politician that will work with everybody to get outcomes for their community. We're not interested in arguments. We're not interested in the carry-on. We actually just want action, and that's what everyone's crying out for. They want somebody that's going to go into bat for them day in, day out, knowing that the community is going to be first for them every time.
Richo?
I was going to ask you about the bushfires. How is the morale of those people who've lost their houses and are still living in temporary accommodation? Because obviously you're not going to rebuild all those houses overnight. How are they?
Yeah, look, across Eden-Monaro, we've probably lost over 1,000 homes, over 2,000 sheds and outbuildings. We've lost tens of thousands kilometres of fencing. I've visited several people that are still living in caravans and temporary accommodation. People are doing it pretty tough. We're always a resilient bunch in regional areas, but, you know, everybody has a breaking point, and I think we really need to concentrate on people's mental health and wellbeing into the future, and we need to start concentrating on what the future of jobs is going to look like in this region. We know forestry's been really heavily impacted. We know our agriculture sector's been really heavily impacted, and tourism and hospitality has copped an absolute beating. So people are quite rightly asking what are the plans for our region, and that's what I want to provide them, a real plan, a tangible plan for the future.
Would you concede, though, Kristy, that the whole entire operation of rebuild, recovery and attention from Commonwealth and state governments when we had those bushfires was pretty damn good?
Yeah, look, there are people that have done exceptional jobs during this crisis. But I think people want to know that you're there, that you'll show up for them in their time of crisis. You know, I was there showing up every day, and I think the thing that stood out to me was that people were after leadership. They want leadership locally, and when there was an absence of national leadership, they were turning around and asking who could they talk to and who was going to provide them with the answers. So, look, there has been some funding that's rolled out. It's a shame that it's taken a by-election for more of that funding to roll out. I think only a quarter of the announced $2 billion from the federal government has actually been rolled out. And, you know, we're 6 months on now from a bushfire. And as I said, having COVID come so quickly on the back of those bushfires has probably slowed down our recovery process considerably. And what we need to be thinking about now and into the future is how we can make that recovery process better, because people are still really struggling.
You got a final one, Richo, for Kristy?
All I want to say is congratulations in advance. I think it's going to be a big win, and I want to be the first to say it. Well done.
Well, we'll see. I want to ask you about the dirty tactics. There have been a whole series of dirty tactics from various quarters. I guess this happens when you've got about 1,400 candidates sitting. Has your first political foray convinced you that politics is for you, or has it scared you a bit?
It hasn't scared me. I think I've been really disappointed in some of the negative old school politics that I've seen. I have run an overwhelmingly positive campaign because I know that the communities of Eden-Monaro are struggling at the moment, and I don't think that they can really handle a lot of that. It's been really disappointing to see some of the fake emails come out with considerable misinformation, distressing for my family who are receiving that in different parts of the country. But most distressing, I think, were the claims made about bushfire survivors in those emails. And, you know, obviously we need to be better than that as a country. I mean, it's a blight on our democracy. And, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to choose a side. Cast your vote, but make sure you do it for Kristy McBain on Saturday.
You had to get that even at the end. Kristy McBain, thank you very much for your time. All the very best.
Thanks, guys.
Good on you. Richo, what does it mean for Anthony Albanese's leadership if Labor doesn't get up on the weekend?
Oh, well, there's no doubt that would be a blow. If Labor doesn't win Eden-Monaro, then you've got to say there's something wrong. But I'm not even thinking about that. I think it's going to be a matter of by how far she wins. I think Anthony can rest very safely in his bed.
Yeah, the poll results recently on Scott Morrison's popularity might play a role. You don't know whether they're going to bring the baseball bats out based on their impression of how the national government failed them during the bushfires, or whether they're going to be impressed by his role during the COVID pandemic.
Well, I think there's obviously going to be a bit of both. But when the crunch comes, neither of those things decide this. They've got plenty of things to think about. And they've got a candidate in McBain who's really well known and really popular, and that gives Labor a big advantage. The Libs have got a candidate that just is unknown and has not been able to grab a headline during the last few weeks. So, as I said, put your house on this woman, McBain. She will win and win well.
Yeah, it's interesting that on a program like this, on a in an hour like this, that she couldn't, the Liberal candidate, couldn't find time for us as well, but Kristy McBain did. But thanks to you, probably.